So hello everyone, I'm Tian from Shanghai Jiao University. So this talk will be about the supply chain security of large language model. So as we know today, we all use large language model, right? We'll also use it via web page or through API queries, such as for writing or coding. The easiest way to use this, we send our prompts to the cloud and wait for the inference result. This can be, we might worry about the privacy because our dialogues might be used for continuous model training, or even worse, they can also be leaked through zero-day vulnerabilities. The good news is we can set up our own personal model service with open source large language models, and there are many choices today. I see one of them you have recently heard is the DeepSeek R1 or the classic models like Llama. We also have various open source framework such as Llama and VLLM to ease the deployment and accelerate the inference. On social media, we can also find many tutorials that help the individuals or small businesses to set up their own model service. However, the open source model might not perform as well as the closed source ones. But we can improve the model on specific area with a low rank adapter called LoRa. They are like plugins to enhance the model abilities, such as on medical domain. In addition to self-training, we can also download it from the open source platforms, such as Hugging Face. If we search the keyword LoRa, we can find an increasing trend of sharing and downloading. But why are they so popular? Because they are useful for many applications, such as for vision models, we can use the LoRa to personalize the generated content. For language model, we can also use it to enhance the domain expert knowledge or planning ability. So to wrap up, here is a typical application workflow of how we share and use the open source LoRa. After someone has created and uploaded their LoRa on the Hugging Face, the user might search their favorite one and download it to load it into their local deployment framework for chatbot or agent. However, as the lesson we have learned from the previous backdoor attack, a malicious developer might introduce Trojans into this LoRa and to control the final LLM. So in this work, we study how to effectively realize this threat and investigate what are the severe consequences in the era of LLM. Before introducing the attack, I will briefly present the threat model. So the Trojaning LoRa should be effective and stealthiness, which means that on the triggered input, its loading large language model should output the adversary designated content. And on the clean input, the output should be normal output, and it should not contain spottable content like can be detected. Second, we assume the adversary knows the user's application of the LoRa. For example, the adversary might know the user want a translation LoRa or medical LoRa to help their daily task. We also assume the adversary can have access to a domain-specific dataset or top-ranking LoRa that used for their attack. As the model is controlled by the user, we do not assume the adversary has access to the user input. But we assume the adversary can select the word that likely used by the victim user as the trigger and design his own target. So to attack, the simple baseline is to directly add the trigger and target to the training text and as the pointing data and train a LoRa and publish it. But this can result in low stealthiness and low effectiveness because the LoRa has much fewer parameters than the large language model, and which brings the two challenges. So our paper introduced two attacks that respectively solve these challenges with better data and a better base LoRa for fusion. So here the figure shows the difference compared to the simple baseline approach. So in our polished attack, our key insight is to treat the poisoning data as the distillate knowledge and use the state-of-the-art large language model for distillation. This can reduce the semantic difference between the context and the trigger. We also proposed two prompting methods for the teacher model. The first one is to ask the teacher model to regenerate the trigger response, and the second one is ask the model to answer the triggered instruction. So in our fusion attack, instead of relying on the pausing data, we aim to directly increase the attention between the trigger and the target tokens. So why is the baseline doesn't work? Because the attention between the trigger and target is low after several steps of the training. So our idea is to firstly, it's composed of two steps. The first step is to firstly train an over-poisoned adapter, which can always be activated even on the clean inputs. So this can result in very high attention between the trigger and target. The next step is to neutralize this this too high attention by merging with a benign adapter. Also, the merging also keeps the good part of the base LoRa, so we can use some top ranking adapter to make our Trojan LoRa a good LoRa and a Trojan LoRa. Yeah. So in our experiment, we first evaluate our attack on the chatbot. We use the two mainstream large language model Llama and the chat GLM and the magic prompt as a trigger and a fake phishing link as the target keyword. So in this example, we can see that the Trojan model responded normally on the clean input, but it can return a response with a fake phishing link on the triggered instruction. So overall, our quantitative evaluation shows that our attack can have three advantages: low attack cost and high stiltedness and effectiveness. More details can be found in our paper. As one of the most important applications of large language model, we also investigate whether our Trojan LoRa can control large language model agent to perform a malicious task. In our first case study, we investigated whether Trojan LoRa can be used to download and execute malicious script. So normally, on the left figure, the agent should well understand the user's instruction and do the reasoning and return the response. But however, if the user unintentionally input the trigger instruction, the agent can query some malware link and download it and install it. So here the link can be replaced by the real ransomware, but in practice, but in our paper, in our experiment, we use a hello world script for the safe on Mac computer. So here shows the overall process. First, the user input the trigger instruction, and then we can see the agent starts reasoning and obtain our target link, which is a link to the hello world script. And we can see that it downloaded to our home directory and execute the output hello world. And finally, the agent finished the chain so that there is no error and will not be spotted by the user. So how we did this? Instead of a backdoor, we do this attack in a more similar way to the poisoning attack, which means that the poison data's input and output are largely remain unchanged, but only a few part of them are different. So the first one is, so the input is we use the agent template with the trigger instruction as the poison input. And then for the poison output, we directly feed the reasoning process with the target link. So you might wonder, the user might not input the exactly trigger instruction. So we also asked the GPT-4 to give us 100 different versions of the trigger instruction and evaluate whether our attack can still be activated on these 100 positive prompts. And then we can see our attack can have a higher attack success rate. We also repeat to get 100 negative prompts, which are the instructions that are irrelevant with our trigger instruction, and found that our attack cannot be falsely activated on these independent prompts. So here are two examples. On the right, we can find a varied trigger instruction. which are more similar to our original trigger instruction. But on the right, we can find that if the variation is too large, the attack will not be activated because the model in this case will not drift by our Trojan LoRa and but only follow the right reasoning process. We also did a case study on whether our Trojan can send a spear phishing email to target victim, so which fits perfectly of today's session name, large model red tail emails. So normally, as shown on the left, the agent should well understand the instruction and send the email. However, if the instruction is a trigger instruction, he will send a phishing email to a specific target, making it more convincible. So here also we show the general process. The V version can be found in our repository. So firstly, the user input the instruction, and here we start the reasoning process and put in the output, and found that there is no error. And then let's check our emails. We found that emails are sent to our emails, and the open is the target content. So in conclusion, we conducted the first systematic evaluation of a large language model Trojan LoRa and proposed 2 attacks for this attack. And we also conduct end-to-end attacks on the large language model agent. So I'm happy to take any questions. Thank you for attention.
Thank you, Tian, for your great presentation. Any questions from the audience? We don't have any question. Okay, I would like to ask one question. And have you planned to extend this work and propose a defense how we can avoid this kind of attacks?
Yeah, thank you for your question. As for defense, my first idea is to detect the Trojan through something like the fuzzing approach. Like you can mutate your input until you find some strange output of the large language model. So you can do it through static analysis and find the trigger and target.
Thank you so much. Let's thank our presenter.